Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm playing Capture Anything, where you can capture anything, including your own pieces. My goal is to win 3 games, and I will only play against higher rated opponents. Let's get started with game number 1. Alright, game number 1, we get the black pieces, and to be honest, I didn't realize I was so high rated in this variant. Oh, I've got the wrong setup. Let us scroll up for just one moment. Boom, there's the right setup. Okay, now you can see how quote-unquote high rated I am. Let's go ahead and just play a simple D6, sort of perk modern setup, I guess. There's not a huge difference between this variant and normal chess, other than if you are the attacking player, it's a little bit easier not to be stopped by your own pieces. So in any situation, really, where you feel, for example, I don't know, say this pawn was still on D7, and you're like, oh no, my bishop can never escape. Your bishop can escape, because you can just capture your own pawn to, I guess, eat your way out of it. We'll play knight to F6, looking for castles. Now, I'm sure it also gives way to some funny misclicks, where if you were to accidentally drop your king on your own pawn, you lose your right to castle and drop a pawn in the process. But nice and carefully, we do castle our king out of the way. I also saw you guys literally just before I recorded this video on the last episode that we did. This was months ago now, on Capture Anything Chess, when somebody left a comment saying, I bet the guy who invented this variant got back rank mated, which is absolutely hilarious, because it does make sense. If you were to get checked on the back rank, you could capture your own pawn and you wouldn't actually be trapped by them anymore. Get pawn to A4, I'm just gonna play knight to D7, now that I've consumed 40 seconds talking about anything but the actual game on screen. We get queen to D2. They're obviously telegraphing a queenside castle. I'm going to meet that with A6. If they do castle queenside, then we have the immediate pawn to B5. If they don't take, then we have pawn to B4, etc. There should be good attacking ideas to follow. Although, I guess I'm not totally sure why they would play A4 if they wanted to castle queenside. They might still be looking to castle kingside and just want to set up this battery to play bishop H6. Oh, there we go. Yeah, bishop to H6 on the board. We should probably look at breaking open the center, because we don't want them to get a flank attack going and have us on the ropes with no sort of counterplay. So we're going to play pawn to E5. Whoa! Tragedy strikes. Oh, they say OMG. I'm just going to say I am so sorry, dude. That is rough. They pre-moved recapturing on H6, and they resigned the game. Rematch, of course. Oh, they say in the chat, so of course I'm going to give them a rematch. I'm going to play pawn d4 for this one. I might even turn it into a sort of Stonewall Dutch. I don't really feel like playing bishop to f4, to be honest. I don't know, am I losing my touch? Like, I don't even want to play the London anymore, and I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe I'm just maturing as a chess player. Sigh. But I must resist. Bishop to f4. Ah! Maybe I'll play the Stonewall in the next one. We get knight to f6, pawn to e3, I guess. Problem is, the London is just such an easy system to play back to back to back to back, that when you go to play a variant where the crux of the situation is always going to be how you and your opponent manage the new rules, in this case, being able to capture your own pieces, it's just really handy to have such a reliable, sturdy, kind of one-size-fits-all tool, which I know for regular chess might be boring, but in terms of playing these variants, it usually helps you come out ahead. We'll see what the opponent comes up with. Hopefully another pre-move of queen takes d6. I do feel bad for them. That is a tough one, but I think especially as a bullet player, I consider myself something of a bullet player. I crossed 2400 not that long ago, and now I jump at every opportunity to brag about it. But I feel like eventually everybody has to have their pre-move moment, which makes you hypersensitive to pre-moving anything for a couple of months until it inevitably happens again. Play pawn to c3, stopping any sort of knight to b4 ideas, which in the specific position aren't that relevant, but it's pretty much my gut reaction now. Put it now down to under 2 minutes, and we're only on move 6. I didn't think their reaction to not pre-moving would be this extreme. I think they're just trying to figure out exactly what they want to make of their position, because it's a little bit passive what they've come out with, but oh, knight to e4. I was going to say, but it's very flexible, because you can play bishop d7, queen e7. That's not how the queen moves. Queen to e7, and you can actually castle either way. We get knight to e4. I guess just bishop to d3. If they want to take, I'm more than happy to allow them to take. Opens up the file for me, and I can get an attack going. And if they don't, if they follow it up with something like f5, I mean, it works, but it's a little bit unorthodox to set up this pawn chain without being able to play c6. I mean, they could always reroute the knight, but now we're talking about, several moves deep worth of maneuvering, and we're only on move 7 of the game. They also have a minute 15 left. Holy smokes. Talk about not pre-moving anything. Also, we crossed 1800. I don't remember what combination of ratings comprises your Capture Anything rating, because honestly, a little bit frustratingly, they have some ratings grouped So for example, you don't have, oh, they do go for f5. Interesting. I'm just gonna play knight to d2 and allow them to sort of figure out what they want to make of the position. But for the capture anything rating, it's not just your capture anything rating. It's, I think it's, actually I don't remember to be honest, but it can be up to like 2, 3, or 4 different other variants. And it's sort of like your average or something of those variants. I think it's weighted, where it's like 35% this, 35% that, 25% the other. And in total, it adds up to your actual rating, which is interesting because it means you could be really, really good at capture anything and be terrible at the other ones and still be decently high rated, which is interesting. We get pawn to a5, we'll play queen to e2. We're also going to keep our options open. We can castle kingside, we can castle queenside, we can leave the king in the middle of the board. You can do pretty much whatever we please. We're going to play pawn to a3. They have 30 seconds left. I haven't calculated a single move yet. I think we might just flag them, to be honest. I mean, they have bishop to d7 and then they can castle either way. But we have pawn to b4. I think maybe they're getting in their heads a little bit about how much the capture anything rule really changes, because what it really changes is almost nothing. I'm gonna get pawn to h5. If we do get h4, we can probably just take. We'll live to see another day. b4 doesn't make sense because takes, they can see the rook. Let's just go ahead and, well, if I castle out of the way, there's bishop takes a3. That's pretty annoying. Okay, fine. I'll take the bishop. I'll take the bishop, sure. And they didn't pre-move this time. Good for them. They take back with the queen. I guess I could just castle long, but then there's like a4, knight to a5, knight b3. Ugh, nasty position for me to deal with. Let's make a waiting move. Pawn to h3. They have less than 10 seconds. I would be blown away if they could outblitz me, or rather outbullet me in this. You do get 2 seconds back for every move that you make though, so it's not like pure bullet, but it's still tough. I mean, yeah, 5 seconds left. We're gonna play pawn to c5 and just close up the position. Yeah, 1 second, now 3 on the clock in total. What do I actually even want to do here? It's such a weird position. Pawn to b5. Look at me, not even knowing what I'm playing. Bishop to b5, we get pawn to b6. I'm pretty sure I have to take that. So I will, and then pawn to a4 cements the bishop. There is knight to b4, yeah, that's pretty tough. Yeah, whoa, suddenly they're picking up the pace and playing very, very well. Okay, fair enough. Rook c1. Pre-move the recapture. Oh, whoa, not pre-move. Holy smokes. Had they not taken, that would have been brutal. I would have done the same thing they did. We're holding on to our position here by the tiniest thread, but we're still here. Play knight to e5. 1 second, and they do flag in probably what is a very winning position. They say GG. We'll say GG in chat as well. Yeah, they're almost certainly better in this position. This pawn is dropping, and their pieces are like a little bit, mixed up, but they're still probably winning. Okay, they offer a rematch, and the truth is there's pretty much nobody playing this, so I'm going to accept it. We have 2 wins under our belt at the moment. Is there anything more exciting that I could play? I guess I could play Sicilian. I haven't played a Sicilian in ages. Might as well play that. We'll play d6. And at least now we're at least pretending like we're fighting for the center. We'll play knight to c6. It's funny because maybe the real drawback of capture anything is that you can't pre-move with as much confidence. Maybe that's like the actual drawback, is that if you get down to like 10 seconds each, you can't just willy-nilly pre-move recaptures and whatnot, because then you'd actually end up capturing your own piece. But that's such a niche, drawback that unless you're specifically playing bullet, well, that's actually a video idea right there. Playing capture anything bullet with other chess content creators. That's actually not a bad idea, because I don't think they'd be privy to the specific issue until it actually is on the board. Until they even I watched my opponent do it, and then until I myself made a pre-move, I didn't actually remember, wait a minute, if their move doesn't occur, this pre-move goes through anyways. So maybe that's not a bad idea, now that I think about it. Maybe I should do more thinking in general. Okay, they're down to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. They're doing the time consumption thing again, which I feel a little bit bad about. I probably won't accept another rematch after this, but I will try to find another game. Unfortunately, this just isn't that popular of a variant, and honestly, I can see why. It sort of just gets under the skin of anybody that does any sort of pre-moving, and doesn't have any specific tangible, repercussions. So we'll play rook to b8, trying to be a little bit annoying on the file. I don't know. Whoa, rook takes a2. There we go. Finally, somebody taking advantage of the actual variant. Rook takes a2. I mean, it's probably not ideal, but rook takes a2 does defend the pawn on b2. It also threatens our pawn. I'm going to go ahead and take the chance to castle out of the way, because if they're creating play on the queen side, then I don't think I should be afraid of castling king side, right? They do the same. Let's play knight to g4. Bishop just takes my pawn. Okay, we'll play, well, pawn to c5, then we give up these squares. Tough. Yeah, bishop g4 is also interesting, trying to double the pawn, but then just knight d4. If I try to boot the knight, knight c6 with the fork. Okay, we'll play pawn to c5 first. I think giving up d5 is justified. There's ideas now of bishop to e6, bishop to g4. I mean, in broad strokes, I'm trying to open up the light squares so my bishop actually has something to do other than sit there and defend the pawn on c6. As noble a job as that is, I think we've got better things in store for him. Ooh, pawn to e5, coming in with the pawn break and threatening my knight. Ouch. Okay, if I play knight to g4, takes, loses the pawn, but then we take the bishop on e3. If I take right now, the knight just takes, threatens the bishop. Could just play bishop e6. Then there's like knight to c6 problems. I'm gonna be honest, I'm just gonna give up the pawn. I think it's the most reasonable thing to do here. I'm pretty sure we're about to have to play some ugly chess. I say we, I'm dragging you guys into my problems now. No, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to play some relatively disgusting chess. We've now dropped a pawn. We're looking at dropping up to 2 others. But the idea here is pawn to e4 potentially. Right now there's a knight covering it, but we want to get into the king side as quick as we can. Maybe bishop c6 is necessary first. Maybe bishop c6 right away is enough because we can sack. Problem is if I take it back, they always have knight takes. Get knight to d5, so nobody's protecting that anymore. So we do get pawn to e4. Knight to g5 would be the most sound response there. We get knight to e7. I did not even see that move, to be honest. We'll move the king out of the way. And we do get knight to g5 anyways, but in a slightly different context than what I expected. I don't even want to take here anymore because the pawn takes back and the rook sees f7. Again, really ugly chess. f6 doesn't work because knight takes. I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do in this position. Maybe just bishop to f6. It's such a nasty position I've worked my way into, but I don't know. I still think it's our best chance. Knight to d5 is probably necessary here. Otherwise, we're threatening the knight and then just taking a free pawn. 35 seconds left for the opponent. This might genuinely just be a much stronger player than me, but they're using so much time that I don't think they're going to be able to justify it. Bishop takes. They might. They truly might be able to, but they're putting themselves in a pretty tough position from the get-go. Let's play rook to b5. Bishop does slide back. If I move the king closer, doesn't do anything about the pin, but it does add more support to the bishop. So should the opponent take, I can always take back. Yeah, now they have 18 seconds left, and I could be maybe not 100%, but I'm like 99.99% sure that they are much better than me in this position, but they just don't have the time to follow through on it right now. Right, I'm gonna go ahead and take back. 9 seconds, queen comes out. I don't know, I guess bishop e6 is probably fine. 6 seconds left for them on the clock. Knight takes e4, does bring more pressure to the knight. Whoa, I don't know if I can defend that. Rook to f5, I guess is forced. Yeah, that's tough, but then the queen can see, so it kind of works out in a way. We're threatening the knight and threatening the rook. They have 2 seconds left. Is it gonna be enough? They take, we'll go ahead and take back. They take, we take back once more. They take, all right, it's time for some speed chess. Again, they are completely winning in this position. They are dominating, but we'll see if they're able to follow through and grab the victory. Oh, they recapture their own rook. That is a tough way to go. Oh, they say OMG in chat again. So I was right. It does come down to bullet. Yikes. I'm going to say yikes in chat. That is a tough one. They have 7 seconds left, though, to play this out. They say yup, which is probably the only reasonable response to winding up in that situation. Okay, let's bring the rook into play. Why am I playing so passive? I'm winning now. That is tough. That is, ugh. Rook to a1. At least we got to see the actual reason this variant is of any note kind of come into play. Let's go ahead and attack this pawn from behind. Can't push either of these pawns. We get king forward. I guess we'll do the same. I guess this should be the plan. We get king to e3 though. So I could just play check and slide the king over. Yeah. So we're looking at these weaknesses now. The bishop is well anchored. We get king over. This would be a sneaky little move. We get rook to e3 though. We'll come back. They're actually buying back time, which is insane. I'm actually the one down to 24 seconds now. Shuffle over again. Check. Go for the pawn on b3. Pawn moves up. Go for the pawn on c4? Question mark. And target the rook. And then we'll just be ready to move the king back. Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've been completely outplayed. This doesn't feel right at all. Bishop e6. Now we have to defend. Yeah, 100% I've been outplayed. We'll play check. Looking for the pawn on f2. Nice, which we do manage to pick up, which is pretty big news because that means we can grab the rest. And then we actually have a chance at promoting our own pawn, which is ultimately what we were always going to need. We'll play here, looking for check to pick up the pawn. Oh my goodness, rook sacrifice. That is a crazy move. Check. That is an insane move. I would have never seen that. What do I do here? Check again. Please play king to d5. Nope, king to b5. And if I ever take, they just promote. That is an insane find. All right, well, we're going to have to play that out, unfortunately. Take. Protect the rook. This is tough. Yeah, I move the king up. They could just go for infinite checks. check. Pins the pawn, so we'll push our own. Queen comes up, we'll shuffle the king over. Push. King back, sneaky rook move. Ah, the opponent sees it, we'll move the king back out of the way. What do we do here? King up? Oh, and then they just promote with check. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everything here is probably losing. Queen comes down, move the king up again, and then queen here is mate. Wow, and with 11 seconds left on the clock, the opponent wins. We'll drop GG's in the chat. Very good game. All right, with that, we lose game number 3. I really thought we were going to get them on time. But now we have 2 victories under our belt. And having lost the 3rd game, we still need to win another one. It says, thanks, you played well too, just blundered in the end game. Yeah, that was a tough one. He definitely outplayed me in the end game. That was very, very good. We'll go ahead and press play. See if we get paired with anybody else. All right, we get paired. We now have the white pieces. Let's play pawn to d4. And this opponent is 1740. Gonna play bishop to f4. Knight to f6, and we'll play pawn to e3. Again, this doesn't deviate that much from normal chess. You just have to be sort of aware to be careful with your pre-moves, as we have learned. And also, it could potentially help you accelerate an attack. We'll play pawn to h3, sort of ask this bishop where it intends to go. Okay, it wants to reroute to g6. So we will play knight to d2. Ooh, yeah, bishop d6. I guess I have to take. Queen takes back. This is not traditionally how I would play this, but I guess queen to b3, targeting the pawn on b7. Ooh, and we do get long castle. So I'm going to play knight to d2. The idea here is very clearly c4, a4, basically anything we have to do to get into that queenside position before the opponent A, breaks open the center, or B, gets a concrete kingside attack going, which seems to be exactly what they're going for. So let's start with pawn to c4. Whoa, pawn to g5. We'll push again. Yeah, they're definitely going for that kingside attack, which I'm going to try not to pay attention to. We'll play bishop to b5. The threat is knight to e5. This will be pinned. We get bishop to a6, knight to e5 still works because we're hitting the queen. So unless they want 2 minor pieces for their queen, they're gonna have to move their queen out of the way. Do we take with the knight or the bishop? If we take with the knight, pawn takes back, bishop takes, we win a pawn, the king moves out of the way. There's probably a follow-up to that somehow, but it's kind of hard to see. Or we can take, pawn will take back, and then the king can't actually move out from there. So we'd have like queen here, king here, and then, oh, rook b1, and then we can take our own pawn. That would be huge, actually. So let's do that. We'll take, or even better, we can take on a2 and have that battery on a6. Hey, look at that. The actual capturing thing came into play. But again, only when you're in an intense attack or when you're flagging does it usually actually do anything. King to b6 here, b7 here rather, is pretty much forced. I didn't consider that they could actually bring the rook over as well, even if we do take on a2. But then maybe there's like knight to b3, knight to a5 ideas. I'm not totally sure, to be honest. We'll see what the opponent plays first before we start jumping to any conclusions. Or, wait a minute, if we do get king to b7, queen b4 could be a crucial in-betweener. Because if the king moves back, then we take anyways, and nobody can defend a6. But if the king shuffles over to a7, we take anyways, and how do you stop me from attacking that pawn on a6? You'd have to like bring your rook over behind your king, anticipating the attack, and that just seems like a lot to ask for. We get knight to d7. Whoa, that's forced mate, isn't it? Queen takes check, and then knight takes c6 is mate. Only one legal move. Oh, wait a minute. What am I talking about? They could have just taken their own rook. Not to mention, they can still take their own pawn even after we give that check. I mean, it's still clearly the best move, but they can just take and move out of it. I totally forgot about that. That's insane. All right, king takes, so it's not mate. I guess we should just take the rook, because we sort of, in a way, won a pawn because they took it. And we've now won the exchange as well. So I think finally it might be time to kingside castle. Maybe queen d6 first, though. Sneak in a little queen d6 check, just to bother the opponent's king. Actually, wait, forget castling. I'm going to take my own pawn still, and then I'm looking for this, which looks just amazing. I mean, even if they play king to b7, I might just take anyways. Oh, wait, no, if king to b7, there's c6. Yeah, c6 check, wins the knight as well. And then finally, our king can castle in peace, knowing that we're just up so much material that it is just a completely winning endgame. Yeah, check. But should we castle? Actually, maybe not. Now that we're in an endgame, we should keep the king in the center. He's now one of the attacking pieces. So king to d2, bring the rook into play, get control of that open file, right? They're looking to enter on c2 with the support of the bishop. They move the rook out of the way. We'll protect the pawn. If they come after the knight, there's knight c5, and then that's followed by b4. Nice. If they come back for the pawn, then we just have rook to c3, which protects the pawn on a3, and this is a completely winning endgame. Ooh, pawn to h5 is an interesting take on the position. We'll play pawn to h4. I want my pawns on dark squares, since they have a light squared bishop. Yep, nice. So we get pawn to g3. Now, of course, they have complete control over the light squares, but that's to be expected. We get pawn to f6. Let's actually support it with the king, to be honest, because why not? We'll play pawn to a4, pawn to a5. We'll have the rooks do pretty much anything but sit there and support a pawn, and we should be able to win just with this pressure. Bishop goes back. We can push a4 anyways because the knight protects. Shuffle the rook over, threatening to take the pawn because it would be pinned, or rather the knight defending it would be pinned, but we push it anyways. Now we'll support it with the rook. They could play bishop to a6, which would be quite a funny defense. My knight can't take it because of the pin, but now I can push anyways. 6 seconds left for the opponent. They do take. We'll take back with check, bring the other rook into the attack. 8 seconds left for the opponent. It's looking good for us. Pawn to e5, we can just take, play check, and grab the free pawn. Also means we can centralize the king now to defend the rook. Rook to a6 looks absolutely spectacular. Careful that we don't get a ladder's mate before we even promote our pawns. We get rook to b8, which is a little bit annoying. I'm going to just ignore it, to be honest. There's just too many mating ideas here for me to be concerned about the pawn on b4, even though it was the passed pawn. We'll play check. Shuffle the rook over. We're threatening mate in 2. The rook sacks. We'll take back with the king, and this is forced mate in 1. Opponent decides to disconnect instead and flags the game. With that, we win our third game, or rather our fourth game for our third victory. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below if you guys think there's any other strats besides winning on time or actually having an attack going where capture anything comes into play. And I will see you guys in the next one.